For centuries, they were the terror of Europe's fierce sailors who arrived without warning. Struck with unimaginable speed and vanished back into the sea, they were raiders. They were explorers. They were settlers. They were the Vikings, the Northmen. But their story is far more complex than the tales of burning monasteries and clashing swords. Today, we uncover the true history of the Viking Age and the invasions that reshaped Britain, Ireland, and Europe forever. The Vikings came from the lands we now call Norway, Denmark, and Sweden. But Viking wasn't their race, it was their profession. To go Viking meant to raid, explore, and seek fortune overseas. These Northmen were farmers and fishermen at home, but warriors and adventurers abroad. Their ships, the sleek longships, allowed them to travel thousands of miles across ocean and river, faster than any force Europe had ever seen. Between 793 and 1066 AD, the Viking Age changed the world, and it began with one brutal moment. On the peaceful island of Lindisfarne, monks prayed, wrote, and lived in isolation. But on June 8th, 793 AD, longships landed without warning. The monastery was attacked, its treasures taken, its monks killed or enslaved. To Christian Europe, it was unthinkable. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle wrote, "Fiery dragons were seen in the sky, and great terror came over the land." This moment marked the beginning of the Viking invasions, and after Lindisfarne, no one was safe. What began as quick raids soon grew into something far larger. The Vikings raided England for decades until 865 AD, when the great heathen army, a massive coalition of Viking leaders, invaded with one goal: conquest. They captured York, turned it into a Viking capital, and carved out a huge territory called the Danelaw in Ireland. They founded new coastal towns, Dublin, Waterford, and Limerick, transforming Ireland's economy and politics. The Vikings raided France along the River Seine, even besieging Paris. Eventually, the Frankish king granted Viking leader Rollo lands in 911. These lands would become Normandy, and from Normandy would arise William the Conqueror. Swedish Vikings, the Varangians, sailed down the rivers of Russia, founding trading cities like Novgorod and Kiev. Some even served as elite guards in Constantinople. The Vikings weren't just raiders, they were empire builders. Scotland felt the full force of the Viking world. The Northern Isles, Orkney and Shetland, were overrun and settled. The Hebrides came under Norse control, forming the powerful kingdom of the Isles. The Vikings shaped the culture, language, and genetics of these regions for centuries. Kings of Alba, the rising Scottish kingdom, fought to survive Viking pressure. Battles were constant, alliances fragile. But by the 10th century, the Scots held their ground. Still, the Viking footprint on Scotland remains unmistakable. The Vikings were feared because they fought differently. They used terror as a weapon, attacks at dawn, lightning fast retreat, and brutality meant to shock their enemies. But they were also masters of craftsmanship. Their ships were engineering marvels. Their saga stories of Thor, Odin, and Loki kept their culture alive through centuries. Viking society was surprisingly complex. They held assemblies called things, which functioned as early forms of democracy. Women could own property, divorce, and rule in their husband's absence. They were explorers who reached Greenland and even North America around 1000 AD. Centuries before Columbus, they were not savages, they were a civilization. The Viking Age didn't end suddenly. Christianity spread through Scandinavia. Kingdoms began to centralize. Raiding became less profitable. The final blow came in 1066 when Norwegian King Harald Hardrada invaded England. At the Battle of Stamford Bridge, he was defeated and killed. Just weeks later, another conqueror landed, William of Normandy, a descendant of Vikings. He won the Battle of Hastings, and the Viking Age gave way to a new medieval world. But the Norse legacy lived on. The Vikings were far more than raiders. They were explorers, traders, settlers, builders, storytellers, and kings. They reshaped the map of Europe. They founded cities. They toppled kingdoms. They connected East and West. Their age may have ended, but their stories live forever. If you enjoyed this journey, Like the video, subscribe for more history documentaries, and tell us what topic you want next.